Good morning. I'd like to welcome you to Where the Rubber Meets the Road podcast. It's an honor to be back with you this week, and I just excited about today and excited about just being able to sit down and just talk a little bit about, remember what happened 23 years ago on this day. And so it's good we got some special guests in here today, Angelo and Miss Sherry, and it's good to have y'all. And we're going to just let them talk a little bit about their experience with 9/11. They both retired NYPD, and they was worked that day, and I'll let them tell the story and what took place, and a very powerful testimony. But we're just going to go around the room today, and it's good to have Brother Tony with us. Go ahead and introduce yourself, and go ahead.
I'm Preacher Tony. I'm excited to be here and hear what.
It sounds like you're excited. Let's try that again.
I'm Preacher Tony, and I'm excited to be here to hear.
Oh, yeah, there you go. There you go.
To hear what y'all have to say.
He just ain't had enough of Red Bull in him yet. That's it. And so,
Mine's empty.
So go ahead, Brother Chris.
Chris Tucker, and I'm excited to be here. Man, I can't wait to hear this testimony, and it's awesome. Thank y'all for your service, and we just thank you for taking your time to spend with us tonight.
Yeah.
Philip Bauer is also extremely excited to be here. Thank y'all again for your service. I'll second what all of them's already said. I remember that day pretty vividly, so I can't imagine what y'all remember.
Well, I think if you go back, everybody in this country, if they was of any age of that time, I believe they remember exactly where they was at when that took place. One of the greatest things, I don't know the exact word I'm looking for, but, American soil has never been hit like that. And, I'm just honored, and I'll introduce these two, and they won't have to introduce themselves, but I'm just honored to get to know both of y'all. And I think we've known each other, for 3, 4 years, 4 or 5 years now, probably more than that.
I think so.
And so it's been an honor to get to know them and just be able to come in contact the way we came in contact, and then build that relationship. And y'all started coming to church here, and y'all actually, we did was it last year or year before last, we did a special thing on 9/11 when it fell on 9/11, and then we then one year y'all gave your testimony. You shared.
It was a 20th anniversary.
A 20th anniversary.
So that's what actually brought us into church.
Yeah.
Was that 20th anniversary.
Yeah.
And we experienced, I experienced, Angelo grew up going to Pentecostal church. I grew up going to Catholic church. And I always say, like, Catholic church compared to coming here, it's like eating beef jerky as opposed to having a filet mignon. It's just that experience that we had on the 20th anniversary was incredible. It was just incredible. It was so powerful. It was so real. It was so welcoming. Where I grew up going to Catholic church, Catholic school, sitting there, just letting the priest, talk, and being here was just incredible. And I try to spread that word to whoever I can. I love this experience.
It is an honor to have both of you, and so I know time's precious and to everybody, and so again, we count it honor y'all both here today, and let's just I know this brings back, y'all shared your story with me over and several times, and sometimes you probably. Sometimes we probably ask more questions than you probably want to answer and think, man, I'm tired. I just want to forget about that day because of, I remember one specific comment that y'all made to me that has stuck to me. And you told me that, both of y'all told me that you look back and the time that you worked afterwards, y'all called that blood money, and how that it was because of brothers and sisters' blood of you having to work the hours you did. So I want to just go back. Tell me, because you look back and how God orchestrated all this. And how that I think it started. Y'all had just been working so many hours and just took that day off, or took a couple of days off. I think y'all just go ahead and tell us a little bit about what took place that day, and tell us a little bit about your story. What led to y'all getting back to that morning when 9/11 happened?
So I think we were actually on vacation. We were in Montauk, and I remember both of us so vividly.
You were a new cop too. You were 3 years on. You were 3 years on.
Yeah, so I came on the job in 97, and then you came on in,
Right after you, so I was brand new too.
yeah, so we were pretty new. We were sitting in a diner in Montauk, just having breakfast, no kids, dog in the car. And the volume was off on the TV, if you remember, and nobody was paying attention because it was just a busy diner. And I'm looking at the television, and I'm seeing the vision of, the cars going into the building, and I'm just watching. And I think I was facing the TV, and he had his back to the TV. And I'm like hitting him, and I'm pointing up at the TV. And then I guess it kind of caught the attention of some other people. And that moment, it's so surreal. Like, this was a busy diner, and everything stopped. And everybody in the diner just kind of stopped, and the volume went up on the TV, and it was just horrifying. I mean, for our generation, I didn't live through Pearl Harbor or whatever, but that's what it was like. Yeah. We didn't know what was going on.
We didn't know what was going on.
Are we at war? Are we being attacked?
No smartphones at the time, so we had to run to the car, turn on the news channel on the car radio, sit and wait and find out what exactly was going on. It was unclear. We thought they were small commuter planes. First, we understood it was one plane. So we were actually sitting and waiting and trying to figure this out. The second plane hasn't even approached the building yet. As we're figuring it out, second plane hits. At that point, we realized this is no accident. Something's going on. So we got in the car, started heading back home without calling anyone. The phones were down. We had back then what they called Nextel. It was a flip phone that worked like a walkie-talkie. So
Gen X.
All the cell communication was down. That was the only phone that worked. So I can actually reach out to coworkers and friends that had these phones and communicate. And we just headed back and did our best. We got in the left lane.
The bridges were shut down. The tunnels were shut down. I mean, I think it took us what normally would be...
That was about 3 hours away, wasn't it?
What would normally be like a 3-hour trip. It took us like 9 hours because everything was shut down. Nobody knew. Were we under attack? I mean, we were, but we didn't know if anything else was happening. But we, as cops, we didn't even think. We just knew we got to get there. Yeah. It was our responsibility. It was... Nobody called us and said, "Hey, you got to come to work." We were just like, "Oh my God, we're under attack. We got to get to work."
Yeah.
And we got home, and I don't remember what time we got home. We got dressed, and I gave him a kiss, and I said goodbye. And he went to work, and he worked at the 49th precinct, and I was at the 5-2 precinct, both in the Bronx. And I didn't see him for about 3 or 4 months because we both worked. They were supposed to be 12-hour shifts 7 days a week, but they really turned out to be 18, 20-hour shifts. I mean, I remember filling out an overtime slip for 22 hours. I drove home down the Parkway with my emergency brake on. I mean, cops got into horrible accidents because there was no, you weren't sleeping. You were just blood money. You were working crazy. So it was about 3 months he was working, I think.
I worked 30 days straight, 12 to 16-hour days. Because of a union rule, they had to give us a day off after 30 days. So after 30 days, we worked 6 days straight, 1 day off, and then it continued pretty much for 3 months straight. I would get home. She probably left an hour and a half before I got home, and the bed was still warm. Because I went straight to bed. I was on my feet the whole time. From the minute I left the house until I got down to ground zero, got assigned to my post for the day, till I got back home, because they did return roll call. They want to make sure everyone was accounted for. So I got home. It's pretty much the first time I was sitting down. after 16, 17 hours, and I would pass out.
It was face-to-face
And
relief, so you couldn't leave until your relief got there.
I didn't know when it was going to end. I didn't question it. I was on autopilot, just doing it and
Wow.
and hoping for the best.
Wow. Now, if you go back, I mean, so tell us a little bit about y'all's departments. How many, I mean, far as, I mean, I know that I don't want to pull off a scab that might be healed, but in y'all's departments, how many that y'all personally work with that was lost in 9/11? Do you know about, was, I mean,
In my precinct,
yeah,
nobody.
nobody in
They
your,
were mostly, so like I said, we were assigned to Bronx precincts. You know, the 5 boroughs, Bronx, Manhattan, Queens.
so it's out, how
Staten
far is it
Island.
out from Twin
So
Towers?
Manhattan,
Ground Zero.
they were, you know, mostly the Manhattan precincts that were around there were the guys that responded. So it was really, they got hit the hardest. Both the fire department
Yeah.
and the police department, all the precincts that were closest to Ground Zero are the ones that really lost. I do remember that one of the girls that was in earlier, they were monitoring the radio, and there was one female police officer that died. And she was calling, I guess, over the radio, and they heard her voice calling, and then
I believe she was a police academy instructor's wife, husband and wife, both police officers. So
I think it was Moira. I don't remember her name, but it's, you know, a long time now. But, you know, we didn't know anyone personally that passed because, like I said, they were
well,
mostly.
I actually did. There was a childhood friend of mine that worked in the towers. He had nothing to do with first responder. And he had leukemia, battled leukemia, was doing great, and 9/11 took his life. One of my coworkers, he didn't make it. So there were people
Yeah.
that didn't make
A
it.
lot of guys got sick afterwards. I mean, we both went through it, like a lot of bouts of pneumonia and bronchitis. I suffered for years of bronchitis. He had
because of
pneumonia.
the dust and
Yeah.
stuff that was there.
You know, they told us, oh, the air is safe. You know, it's safe. And it wasn't safe, obviously. You know, they just knew that they had to get people down there and doing their job. And there was like one of the guys I work with, he was on the pile, like digging through all that stuff. We weren't. We were mostly assigned to what they called security.
I mean, I just don't understand. I mean, just think police officers and firefighters, everybody rushing out. A plane has went through the building and they rushing in. I mean, that just shows you that, you know, I'll say it every time, and I'll say it to the day I die. You know, the world's got their eyes on the wrong heroes. It ain't a basketball player. It ain't a football player. It ain't a baseball player. Our heroes is you know, whether it's police officers, firefighters, EMTs, our military guys and women. You know, that is the true heroes. I mean, you know, they rush in when everybody else is rushing out, and you know, they probably knew as they was going in. A lot of them. I mean, that, you know, I look back at that day, and there's a lot of things that it's, well, if you look at biblical numbers, number 11 is the number of chaos. 9 plus 1 plus 1 is 11. It happened on the number of chaos. The Twin Towers looked like 11 standing. The first plane that hit the buildings was Flight 11. The crew that was on that first flight was from Afghanistan, which has got 11 letters in it. It can go on and on and on. It makes you wonder where all this, you know, how all this, I mean, the planning that, you know, how wicked this planning was up ahead to know that, you know, we got to have these planes and they got to be full of fuel or whatever. I mean, it's just, it just shows you. And what's so sad about it is their religion thinks they did a good thing.
Right.
But my heart, I can't imagine what y'all went through them few days when you know.
I think that the part when I look back now, because we don't watch any of this, I don't need, like Angela said, we don't need to see it. But I think the part now that when I think back at 9/11, that really cuts so deep isn't actually what happened. But if you look at the state of affairs of how cops are demonized, we worked in a department that was 40,000 strong. And I always say, when I get into whatever political debates with people and they say, oh, well, this is bad and that is bad. And I say, no, it's not, Republican or Democrat or Catholic or Jewish. It's human beings.
Yeah.
Human beings are so flawed. It's not a group or a political ideation or, doctors or teachers or nurses. It's human beings. And I think 23 years later, and I was in a different place in my life back then. I didn't have God in my life. I didn't look at it the way I look at it now. I just was I couldn't even think. We were just kind of like robots responding. But I think now, thanks to you, Ryle, and Covenant Baptist Church, I am just in the best place I've ever been. I have so much hope because of you and because of this church. And I think back to 9/11 and how catastrophic it was. And what it makes me realize is that human beings are going to self-destruct. And there's no man, there's no political party, there's no government, there's no country that can fix this.
Yeah.
Right? Because, the totality of this.
Yeah.
And there's been so many other events throughout history, right? The Holocaust. Human beings are so flawed. And that kind of is what really kind of strengthened my faith in God. The bad things, not the good things, the bad things made me realize we cannot fix this. It doesn't matter. We can get the greatest guy in there with the greatest political party. We can, have this and have that and everything lined up. But we're still so flawed. We're still so evil. We're still so corrupt. We're angry. We're jealous. We're spiteful.
It's amazing that it didn't matter what news station you turned on 9/11 or 9/12 or 9/13 or 9/14. Every news station was talking about praying for this, praying for that, praying for that. And, it takes tragedy that the world wants to turn to God. And, I think what gets me so much now is we've got so far away that, you look in these cities and all this police brutality and all this nonsense that's going on. This is ridiculous that these communities and these cities and these politicians and vice versa ain't standing up and saying, you know what, they should be sometimes my flesh gets in the way and I want to say, this is what I'd like to do.
Right.
And know that it probably ain't the Christian thing to do. But that, it's nonsense. And, there's no way. There's no way I'd be a police officer today. No way. That's one good thing. I will say this. We live in a county now that we have an amazing sheriff. Sheriff Eddie Cathy, he is an amazing sheriff. I believe with all my heart, he stands behind his guys. You look in some of these big cities around, the chief don't, it seems like some of these chiefs don't stand behind their guys. And, if their guys does something, I believe we got a sheriff here in the county that stands behind his guys, but still, there's no way. Why tote a weapon? You can't use it. You pull it out, you're going to be charged with, it's,
Right.
It's nonsense. And so
I think that's part and part. I know we're talking about 9/11, but I think that's a big part of why you see like these shootings or whatever, even the, assassination attempt on Trump, they could say, oh, well, why didn't there was local law enforcement. I think cops are so like handicapped by fear of going to jail, getting indicted, getting destroyed, absolutely destroyed. I mean, I was just going to say, when you were talking about that before, I remember every day driving down to Ground Zero, we would be in a police van. It would be a whole crew of us. Do you remember the people along the West Side Highway?
Yeah, rows of people waiting for you,
Rows.
cheering you on.
Signs.
And you
Thank
feel
you.
good, but you feel like I'm just doing what I'm supposed to be doing.
Right.
Like, what's the big fuss about?
And now it's the total opposite. We as police officers, I mean, you know, I'm retired now, but police officers are just demonized for everything. I mean, I think about, like, you know, my uncle owned a bar, you know, back in the 60s. And he said, oh, I took care of all the cops, you know, they came in here and I would give them dinner and, you know, water, whatever, and I was like, yeah, well, I said, you know, nowadays it's like, that's looked at as corruption. You can't even get a cup of coffee, like, because they're saying, oh, that's corruption. Meanwhile, you know, so you're saying that a cop can't get a cup of coffee. He said, but the reason behind that was because when that cop was on his shift and he was sitting down having his meal that I chose to give to him, I know my place was safe. Nothing was going to happen. That was the ideology behind it. He said, you know, but they turned it into a negative thing. But yet you look at what's going on in grand scale with these bureaucrats that are getting everything. And then they turn around and say, oh, look, you're bad for getting a cup of coffee. But look what's going on in big government.
Yeah.
I mean, and I think that's a piece of what's going on where you say, oh, well, why is this happening in big cities? I think at first I said, oh, it's money. You know, people are getting paid off. But I think it's way more deep than that.
I think our
people are being
government is a
threatened.
whole lot more corrupt than what a human mind thinks or
And
a
it's-
human being believes. There's a lot of stuff goes on behind scenes, and you know, I had opportunity here just a couple weeks ago to be able to walk in a Capitol building, and I walked into the Capitol building and got escorted around by one of the senators there, and we went in every room of that Capitol. We spent all day walking into each room, and he told us how it worked. And where you think decisions was made wasn't made there. Decisions was made in a back room with a coffee pot with couches and recliners.
For the restaurants
And
the golf courses.
just you know, hey, if you'll help me here, I'll help you on yours, and it was just a help me thing, and I'll never forget this. He walked us in this one room, and this senator is, I mean, I believe he's top notch. I mean, he loves God with all his heart, and he's top notch, and he set us up there where all the Senate sits. He took us in one room. I can't remember what room it was, but it was all these leather white chairs up around the top, and it made a big U around the room. And he said, y'all sit up there. And it was elevated. It was about, I don't know, maybe 5 foot higher than the chairs in the floor. And he walks down front, and he gets down in front of us, and he says, I just want to share something with you. He said, this is what's wrong with government today. He says, y'all are supposed to sit up there, and we're supposed to be down here. He said, but the government wants to be up here and put the people down here. And you know, that's where we've got it. You know, just you go back and you know the criminal in this country has got, you know, you give it a crack. They give it a crack, and now the door is wide open, and they can't control it. They can't stop it now. They've given the criminal so many rights. You know, you go back to a police shooting. You go back to a individual where a police pulls out his weapon and has to use it. I guarantee you, if he would have listened to that police officer, he would have never had to use it. Police officer tells you put your hands up, put your hands up.
Whether you're right or wrong,
what-
you don't. I always used to say to kids when I would talk to kids at high school and DARE and stuff, I say, you don't sort it out on the street. You never sort it out on the street.
Yeah.
You do what you're told, and then you sort it out later on.
the truth will come out. I mean, just listen, and that's a problem. We think we have more rights than anybody. So tell us a little about. So how long do y'all stay in New York till y'all retire? When y'all retire and move up here?
So I actually left and I transferred out to a small town in the county, and he stayed on in the city. So and it was just impossible to have kids and stuff like that with both of us working down there. So it was a little bit of a slower pace for me. So
we pretty much waited for each other to retire. We had a plan. We knew we didn't want to stay in New York, not because of 9/11, just because we didn't like it. We knew before we were police officers we were going to up and leave no matter what we were doing. We stayed with the plan. Our neighbor, both husband and wife, police officers, and that was their plan, and they gave us that advice. They said, pay your bills, live modestly, plan for a retirement,
work hard,
and when you can, get out and find a better lifestyle for yourself. And we were on board with that plan.
I think, it wasn't just 9/11. I think people don't really understand what police officers see. I mean, there's things that I saw that, especially when it comes to children, that just you can't unsee. You have nightmares, but, the nightmares aren't even, you can't even dream of some of the stuff that I saw. And I feel like coming here was, it was our plan, but it was also like a fresh start. I was able to kind of put so many bad memories and so many bad things because it haunted me. Not so much 9/11, but, the cases that I worked and the things that I saw with kids, especially sexual assaults and stuff. Because I did like domestic violence and things like that when I was a detective. And it haunted me. And I think being here, a new perspective, a new life, and you can kind of say, oh, well, that's there and help. But I mean, for the first couple of years, I really had a hard time like sleeping at night. You work home invasions and all these things are in your head. And so
I still dream that I have to get up and go to work. I still dream.
But you are
talking about.
I have the same. It's funny, for years it was a dream I have to get up and go to school because I hated school. Even until my 40s, I'm dreaming I have to get up and go to school. But once I retired, I would have these crazy dreams where I would sneak back to work, put on my uniform, and go back out into the street and blend in with all the other police officers and hope they don't find out I'm not active anymore. And it's the same dream over and over. And also, most cops have the same dream of, they call it trigger retention. So when you need to shoot,
your gun doesn't work.
It doesn't work. You pull that trigger as hard as you want, or when the bullet finally comes out, it's like Ricochet Rabbit and that cartoon where the bullet comes out of the pistol and drops to the ground.
It's just being not being able to. I think they said it symbolizes not being able to like fix something or make the situation right. Being
But right now, y'all are enjoying retired life.
Yeah, I mean, really enjoy the kids and each other's company.
Kids is about grown.
Yeah,
kids.
But they're still home.
They're still home, but they growing up.
No, they know they have it good and they want to be home. And
I think that's the other piece. Like, thank God that we didn't have children. I don't know how I would have done it if we had children during 9/11 because we didn't see each other for 3 months. And I think I told you that. I didn't want kids. I was career minded and I was like, I'm going to, take the tests and I'm going to make rank. And that changed everything. When he walked out the door and I walked out the door and we didn't see each other for 3 or 4 months, it really changed my perspective about family and relationships and
life.
And I mean, the career was very difficult. It took a toll on marriage.
What did it change your perspective after that day, the love for your country?
oh my God. I mean, even to this day, I love this country. Are there flaws? Absolutely. There are flaws. But that goes to what I said before. Human beings are flawed. You know, I mean, I can't say that enough. And that's what I've really learned from studying the Bible, coming to church. It's not, you know, capitalism. I get in these arguments of capitalism is this. No, human beings are flawed. We're greedy. We're selfish. We're, you know, all those things. But I think 9/11 really made me realize how fragile we are.
Yeah.
Like, I was young. I rode motorcycles and nothing's going to happen to me. And, you know, and I worked in a really, when I got on, I was like, I want to work in a busy precinct. I want to be where all the crime is. You know, I was young and full of, you know, piss and vinegar, as they say. And I wanted to be out there. And then 9/11 happened. I was like, wow, like, boom, thousands of people gone. And it made me realize that this and people and relationships are the most important things. Those people that were out there like 5 o'clock in the morning holding signs up, they didn't know us. They were just people. And it made me realize that people are important. Not, oh, I want to be a lieutenant or I want to be a captain and, you know, I want to do this. And it's the relationships in life. It's the people in life. That's the most important thing. Yeah. And I mean, I was never, you know, a cold person or, you know, uncaring. You know, you can ask Angela, he'll tell you, you know, he always says, you know, you got a big heart. But it really made me realize that having a family and, you know, building those relationships is what's important in life.
Yeah. Yeah.
You talk about patriotism, you know, like Pearl Harbor. I can only imagine what those soldiers felt when they were being attacked and so on. All these American parts of the country that have been attacked. When I was down there and I was on a break, I would walk around through the devastation and just debris and piles of everything, and it made me angry that this happened.
Colin, you got something you want to ask them or question or Chris, one of y'all got something you want to ask them, Philip?
I don't know that I got a question, but when you're talking about patriotism, and I see, I love this country. I love what this country affords for us. I know that freedom wasn't free. I know that there are men and women that died, put their lives on the line, that volunteered to do so at an early age.
Yes, they did.
The police, the fire, some may not even realize what they're doing at the time when they do it, but they're doing the same thing. And then you see folks, and this goes back to the human flaw, and then you see folks, because they're a good athlete or because they have a little bit of money, that this country puts them out there in front of the world, and they totally disrespect everything that's been done to allow them to be able to do that. Now, they have the right to do that, but man, it burns me up to no end to see. And I don't want to mention names, but I mean, we just got done with an Olympics, and there's people over there kneeling while the national anthem, the country that they're there to represent, they're disrespected. And it just, to me, it flies all over anybody that considers themselves an American. There's not an African American. There's not an Asian American. You're either American or you're not, period. Yeah. And I don't know, I'm just rambling now and venting, but when you see, obviously those people are a lot younger, like my kids. My kids are 18 and 23. They don't remember anything. These people that are competing in the Olympics, they're in their mid to early 20s because they're at the athletic peak of their life. They don't remember how the country came together. It's so far apart from what it was in 2001 to 2002, probably 3 and 4. From what it was then, I mean, if you start talking about the Bible and it's as if my people who are called by my name will humble themselves and seek my face and pray, that's what I think of when I think about that time.
Yeah.
And we're so far from that now. It's so stinking ridiculous that it lights me. My ears are burning talking about it right now. It just, but, and I'm just rambling. I don't have a question, but speak to that if you could.
I think that, when I said, oh, what do you want to talk about? What topics do you want to cover? And you said, well, I want you guys to talk. I'm like, I don't want.
You've done pretty good so far.
No, but I mean, it's not about me. I felt kind of uncomfortable because, I don't need any praise because I always felt, and you can ask Angela, whatever it was in life, that's our job as human beings, to roll your sleeves up and help the next person, even if I can't stand you, even if I don't agree with you, your politics, your religion, your anything. As a human being, that's what we're supposed to do. And I've always had that mindset that you just help somebody, you roll up your sleeves. Like I said, we're in the diner. Nobody told us you have to respond to work. We were like, oh my God, we're under attack. We're cops. We got to go. And even if we weren't cops, we would have been like, oh my God, we have to do something. Right. And that's what's gone. It's every man for themselves. That's what it's turned.
A dog eat world.
Yes. There's no neighborhoods. There's no community. There's nobody looking out for their neighbor anymore. And I mean, I just think of New York, the way it was in the late 90s and early 2000s. Those people were out there. They were out there in the morning when we would drive down the West Side Highway at 5 o'clock in the morning. They were out there at 2 in the afternoon. They were out there at 11 o'clock at night to say, thank you. You're our heroes. Now, you can't even get people to help their neighbor. Everybody just looks down on their phone. They don't even want to wave to you.
It's because God is missing in their lives.
Yeah.
We have neighbors. They're all great. But the best neighbor is the one that has God in their life. The rest that never talk about it, or they don't even go to church, or never even talk about religion. It's the ones that barely give you a wave, or they're in their own world. I think once God left.
I said that too. I said that 20 years ago. I said they took the Pledge of Allegiance out, and then they took prayer out, and that was the demise of America.
Right.
Well, I have the answer for all of it. Them people that don't love the country. And this would fix everything. If they don't love America, put them on a plane and send them where they like, what country they want to go to. Because I promise you, they won't stay there long. They wish it's back in America. Right. And all these people that don't want to stand up for their country, I'll be honest with you, I'm a Christian. I love the Lord, and I'll stand behind Israel, but I love my country. Yeah. A lot of people say you bleed red. I bleed red, white, and blue, and I will stand for my country. And I will stand on it. I'll keep fighting, even when it gets to it seems like ain't even worth fighting. I'm gonna know that I did my part. I want to do my part. And Philip, you have something you want to.
No, I can remember 9/11 vividly. What I remember the most about 9/11 is like what Chris was talking about was after 9/11. Our whole country was in one accord.
Yeah. Just
like we should be now.
Right.
We were one accord. We were all on the same page. We were all about helping each other, doing what needed to be done. You're 100% right. Humans are flawed. Take it back to the Old Testament. Humans were flawed the day that we ate a fruit that we didn't have no business eating. Flaw entered the world. But, we learned this one thing in Bible college. Sin's not a man problem. Sin's a God problem. That's for God to sort it out. We gotta do our part to try to abstain and stay away from it. God's gonna solve the sin problem one day. And those people that don't know him, they're gonna pay a price. It's gonna be a bad one. I do want to say though, I have some of the utmost respect for our men and women who serve military, police, fire, EMS. To me, y'all are far greater than any basketball player or football player or anybody else. To me, what really needs to happen is you need to take all those salaries for those people, and you need to divide it up and give it to those, and then pay those athletes the salary of a police officer and a firefighter.
I mean, to
Let's
think
get
that
it to where it needs to be at.
we are an all volunteer military. I mean, that's just amazing when you think about it. And after 9/11, all those young men and women that signed up all volunteered. They weren't forced. They didn't have to serve. I mean, that says a lot.
If the country keeps going like it is, you're going to see all volunteer military too.
Yes.
Again,
A militia.
you're going to see a World War III.
Yes.
This country is, I'm telling you, what people don't grasp what this November is going to hold. This November is crucial. And I'm not standing, I'm very vocal when it comes, about, used to people didn't say who they're going to vote for, who they're going to vote for. I'll just say it like this, as a child of God, I have to vote who stands the closest to the Word of God. And, we don't grasp today. I mean, we sat here and we've talked about 9/11 and we remember what took place 23 years ago and how awful that is. But you realize every week in Charlotte, 9/11 happens. Every week in Charlotte, 9/11 happens at the abortion clinic. That's how many babies is killed every week in Charlotte. And we don't grasp that. We've learned to, well, it's just it's a choice. It's like this. Our country has got so out of whack, and anybody who wants to stand for right, we wrong. That's what they say. We wrong because humans ought to have rights. We have to line our life up with the Word of God. And some people say, "Well, I don't believe that Bible." You don't have to believe it. You have a choice if you want to believe it. But I promise you, one day we all going to stand, and either you're going to believe it on this side or you're going to believe it but when it's too late. And a lot of people don't want to hear that way. But I'm so thankful for both of you. I'm so thankful for all our officers and the job y'all do. And I don't think y'all get thanked enough for the times you stood in the gap, for the times that you rush in when people's rushing out. You're always there to help. It's amazing for the ones that don't like a police officer, that wants to run police officers in the ground. Let something happen at their house. What's the first thing they do? Call 911. It's amazing. They two-faced. They want to say they don't like the police, but let something happen. What's the first thing they do? They pick up the phone. They call 911 and say, "Can you send somebody?" It's crazy. They don't appreciate them till they need them. That is, they don't. We dearly appreciate y'all and thank y'all and for your service and to this. It's an honor to have both of you here now, and I hope you continue to enjoy retired life, and guess one of these days you enjoy grandbabies.
Hopefully soon.
Well, I don't know.
I just want to say one thing. I've been reading the Bible pretty religiously, and I was reading the whole book of Ephesians, and it's just so powerful. And I think it was 6:10, 6:11, or 5. Put on the full armor of God, and I think that's what we all need to do as Christians. We all need to put on the full armor of God and act like police officers, help each other, be there, just whatever needs to be done. Somebody's, in distress, put on that full armor of God and go out there and help each other and stop waiting for somebody else to do it. It's us. It's Christians. It's our responsibility. It's our job to go out, and he says to preach his word. And we need to do that more. We need to do it boldly. And that's what he said, to put on that full armor of God and go out there and do that. And that's what I think we need.
Yeah, Paul tells us to put that armor on daily, and I teach a lot about that armor of God and teach about each piece and what it represents, and that is something that he says do that we can withstand the wiles, the schemes of the devil, and the devil's going to come at us every day, and I use the illustration a lot here, and I take that passage of scripture there where Paul talks about the armor of God, and I take that passage of scripture back to Nehemiah when they're building the walls. And in the book of Nehemiah, when he goes and rebuilds the walls, everybody had a place. They built a wall. They fixed a wall. That's why he was able to fix it in 52 days, record time. Is because he built that wall. Everybody did their part. And if you look at your armor of God, there's no piece for your back. It's all for your front. We wasn't made, and over, when we put our armor of God on, over and over it says to stand, to stand, to stand. And many times in life, when things get hard, we want to turn. We want to walk away from them. We don't want to face them. I think we've got to. That's
what got us where we are.
Yeah, we've got that phone, and now we'll hide behind that phone and text somebody, but we won't face them face to face. We'll run our mouth on social media, but we won't face them face to face.
Right.
And how I use that in Nehemiah is, when I decided to sit down, if I decided, you know what, I'm quitting. I'm just sitting down. I'm tired. I'm quitting. When I leave, when they sat down, if somebody sat down, they left a hole in the wall. They left a hole. Everybody's working on. You got the picture. Everybody's working on that wall all the way around the city. And when if that family chose to sit down, they left a gap. Well, all the way on the other side, their brother's back exposed on the other side of the city. And so what happened is the Bible said they laid stone with a trowel in one hand and a sword in another. I ain't figured out how they did that yet, because I can't hold a trowel and lay stone and hold a sword in one hand. But that's how the Bible said they did it. And because they was willing to fight, they was willing to work, they was willing to fight. One of the things that one of our next podcasts is coming up is about commitment. That is our problem today. People don't want to be committed. They will not commit to nothing. Well, preacher, I don't know if I have time. I don't know if I'm going to have time to it. Remember, the Bible tells us we are to put God first. God ought to be first in everything. And he's the one. He's the one that stepped out of glory and put on the fleshly role to come and die on Calvary for me to pay a sin debt I could not pay, and to save me from my wicked self, my wicked lifestyle. But yet I tell him I ain't got time for him. I ain't got time to do nothing for that. So, going back, and I know we can jump rabbits and run this forever, but I wanted I look back now, if I could redo life. And I wouldn't want to be a police officer now, but I've always had it in the back of my mind. I'd always loved to be an undercover drug officer. That's what I'd always, that's either that or in the crime, the investigation, the figuring out the crimes, and the
Detective.
Detective part of it, maybe in the homicide. I love watching. I expect y'all probably don't like watching none of that, but I love watching like the first 48. I can sit and watch that for hours and hours, and now Operation On Patrol. I love watching On Patrol. I love to watch cop shows, and I love but you see the disrespect.
I was just going to say that, but you see it like. I always say the difference between a regular person and a police officer is a regular person picks us up and says, "Oh my God, that's so terrible." And then they put it down and they just take another bite of their sandwich and sip of their drink and they move on. But as a police officer, you live it. You live it with the family, with the victims. You taste it, you smell it, you touch it. You're there, reliving it with them. People are like, "Oh, I want to be a cop." You see everything. You see, dead babies.
Yeah.
You can't unsee them.
Yeah. Let me ask you something. Going back to 9/11, and I know there wasn't no normal after that. How long did it take for the city not to clean up and just work seemed like it got to back somewhat normal? I mean, I know there wasn't no normal, ever a normal after that, but how long did it take before the people quit standing on the side of the road saying thank you? How long did it take for, that people just fell right back into the routine of life?
So the week after, it seemed like there was hundreds of them on the west side with their banners up. And it seemed like week after week, there was less and less. So I was down there Thanksgiving Day, and you could probably count 12 all right, it's Thanksgiving, but from hundreds, it went down to like 10, 12. So it by November, it dwindled off. But as far as even when they rebuilt the towers, for me, it's never the same. You go down there, you see the old Ground Zero. You don't see the new one. You just don't see it. It's rebuilt. It's beautiful. It's nice. It's a memorial. But to me, it's not what I remember.
Yeah.
So people forget.
Yeah.
I didn't forget.
And you look at that stuff, and I mean, you'd think it would have been a whole lot more devastating than what it was. I mean, when you look what took place, I mean, because it really, the towers was, I mean, was they buildings around it? People got killed in around it, or was
There was carnage. I mean, I remember I didn't go. I think you were assigned there more like we were shorthanded at the precinct. So my partner and I were on steady patrols, and then randomly they would send us down there. But he was down there, I think, way more often than I was. But I remember going down there the first day for something, and there was part of people and smell of death, like just permeated the air. It was just carnage.
But it probably was so, with what happened in New York, the crime probably stopped for a while, didn't it?
The crime, I would say so.
I mean, it was y'all's mindset. People's mindset was focused. You know what I'm saying, more or less. And
yes and no, though. I mean,
well, you have your radio on, so if you fast forward 12 years later and you're in the same spot with the radio on, the crime is rampant. The shootings, this, that, and you're standing and listening to locations and where it's happening. But I'll say this 100%. During the days of 9/11, when I was there with my radio on, I didn't hear anything. If there was something that came over, it was a car accident or like emotional disturbed person call. But as far as crime goes, I worked during the day. I didn't hear anything. It was just cops talking to each other on the radio, where usually cops do not take up the frequency. It's the 911 operator dispatching and the cops returning the calls. But I remember distinctly that there was no crime.
for how long do you think? I don't remember.
I would say probably the first month. It was especially on, like, I worked from 5 at night to like 7 in the morning. You didn't hear anything going on. Nothing at all. At some point, like 3 in the morning, there was no transmission on the radio whatsoever. It was weird.
Do you reckon it's
quiet.
because the world, the country, got on one accord, and their mind was focused on one thing?
I believe in that, sure.
You know, just everybody was focused on one thing. They was focusing on, you know, because I remember I wouldn't say it was a hatred, but it wasn't hatred that I got in my heart that day, but it was a feeling of, this is our country. This is you know, we gonna get you back. You know, whatever it takes, let's go fight. You know what I'm saying? It was like the country pulled together, and you reckon that's why crime stopped that day?
I feel like even the people that didn't follow the letter of the law, that they felt a sense of responsibility. This is their country too.
Yeah.
Whether they abide by the laws or not, and they're good citizens or not, they were victims too. They were attacked from an outside, you know.
I do remember distinctly this, though. There was quite a few, I call them bodegas, right? We were talking about it earlier. And they were run by, you know, whatever, different nationalities. But there was a few, and I remember a couple of people from the precinct went to get coffee there, and they were celebrating.
Oh, it's a wonder they even got out of the coffee shop.
They were celebrating.
It wasn't good. wasn't good.
Yeah, it was right across from the
Yeah,
precinct.
and,
I remember they went in to get coffee and they were celebrating.
You hear rumors that it was an organized, expected attack, like they were anticipating it. And when it happened, I heard that story more than once of people celebrating. You know,
Did you hear it in
these
your
are the, these are,
precinct,
these
or-
are, we heard it. I heard it in my precinct. I heard it from other guys, but these are people that were among us that pretended to be our friends.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That had a smile on our face that, wanted to say hello to you, good morning. And
get your
then
newspaper in
they
there
were-
in the
they
morning
were
and your
proud
coffee.
They were proud of this incident, this attack. Like it was huge.
It was it 11 or 14 of them that pulled this off?
I think it was 11.
I think it was 11.
Yeah, I feel like
I think it was 11.
There's
11.
that number again, huh?
It was 11 or 14. Okay, so if 11 pulled 9/11 off,
Well, that's what we were told anyway.
okay. Well, as far as getting on the planes, pulling it off, here we go. Look at the numbers. Look where it's not if it's going to happen again. It's when. Yes. And look at the terrorists that have got in that they call escapees. The number is crazy how big. They call them getaways is what they call them. They've caught hundreds and hundreds and hundreds, but they say they getaways and they've got in. You look what Hamas did to Israel and how they attacked Israel at a certain time, and they attacked them strategically. They come in and they attacked them where they didn't even know they was under attack when they first attacked. You look what would happen in America right now if all of a sudden you ever wonder if they just waiting on somebody to say now.
Right.
Strategically, all these terrorists all over the United States, and they say now, what would take place?
Yeah.
I believe with all my
in Pennsylvania.
They call them sleeper cells.
Yeah, I believe with all my heart that it is going to happen. It's not if, it's when it's going to happen. And I wonder what it's going to take for this country to start standing up for what is right, standing up for their country. I mean, for example, here we go. You go back. A lot of people don't even know this. But these college campus letting these Hamas people, whatever you want to call them, stand up on college campuses and put down the Jews and what all this nonsense that went on college campuses the last few months ago, crazy. That ain't nothing but a spit in the face of this country. And you say, why is that? Because if you study history, it was one Jew is the reason United States is United States now. Our problem is we quit teaching history in our school. We don't teach what the country was founded on. You see, if you take that back, it was one Jew, and his name was Haman Solomon. And Haman Solomon would come over here when George Washington was running out of money to fight the war. He run out of money. He was going to have to surrender. And he told his treasury, you can go look this up, this is true, but it's not taught in history. He told his treasury to go find a man by the name of Haman Solomon. He was a Jew that come over here. And he gave everything. He was well wealthy. He was a young man. He gave everything he had to George Washington, that George Washington continued to fund the war for him to win, for the United States to become the United States. And George Washington, he gave him, at that time, you can look it up, it's $20,000. $20,000 in 1770s was a lot of money. And George Washington said, I don't know if we'll ever be able to repay you back. And this was his quote. His quote was, you don't have to pay me back as long as the Jew will always be free in this country. And is that not a spit to the face if it was one Jew that funded the war for America to become America? But yet, now we allow them to, it's crazy. It's nonsense. We done here.
They're taking American flags down at capitals and raising the Muslim flag.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't care what flag it is. It doesn't belong there.
No.
The American flag belongs there.
If you want if you want Islamic flag flown, go get in an Islamic country. You can fly it there all you want to. I think that, it's going to get worse. It's going to get worse and worse. But we've been going for an hour now. And so we're going to go. Any final words that Tony, you got any final words? And yeah.
I want to tell you from the bottom of my heart, thank you for your service.
Thank you. Appreciate
And I
it.
want to go back to one thing that struck me about 9/11 was the feeling I got. I was scared to death. I'm not going to lie to you. I had a fear like I've never had before. I mean, I had a young kid, and my wife. It was uncertainty. We didn't know what was going to happen. But a lot of people don't like him, but I applaud my president at that time. Because I remember when he showed up down there, everybody was still digging and searching. Mm-hmm. I think it was still hot. Mm-hmm. And he made this statement. America hears you. We all hear you. And pretty soon, the ones who knock these buildings down are going to hear from us. And I don't want to make anybody's decision or anything else, but when you've got a leader that can stand and do that, we're headed in the right direction. Well, I'll just say it. I don't think we've got it now.
No. We ain't got a leader.
But from the bottom of my heart, thank you. Thank all law enforcement, military, EMTs, firefighters, because when the chips are down, y'all are running in, and I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Again, I'll second what Tony said. Thank you. I can't even begin to imagine what y'all have seen, especially in New York. I pray is all we can do. We can pray that people's heart will change. God will soften some hearts and harden some other hearts, I guess. We need a leader that ain't scared. There was a time in this country for 4 years we didn't have a war. And it wasn't that long ago. And this is not a political.
Walked over in North Korea.
This isn't meant to be a political podcast, but
But
not.
it is.
I'm not ashamed to tell you, I will be voting for Trump in November. I will not be voting for the other one.
All in favor?
And it's not that I agree with everything that Trump says. I think Trump would be a really great president the first time around if he could have kept his mouth shut a little bit more than what he did. But then again, that's what got him to where he was at. He did what he said he was going to do, and to me, that's the biggest thing. Do what you say you're going to do. But I do thank both of y'all, especially for running in when others would have run out.
Thank you.
For going into the war zone, which is what it was. It was a war zone. I've never been to New York. It's always been a bucket list item to go up there and go to a couple of those like tapings of some of the Tonight shows, maybe Jimmy Fallon, something like that, and sit in the audience and then just get on an airplane and come back home same day, not spend the night.
Hold off on that.
It's not going to happen anytime soon. Work's not going to be sending me up there, so I'm not going. So, but no, thank y'all.
There's I couldn't help but think about this when we're talking about everybody's running out. There's a song that they sing here. It's called, I think the name of it is Even Till the End. And it's a picture of the love of Christ. When everyone walks out, that's when he walks in.
Yeah.
And that's what I think of when I think of you guys.
Thank you.
Not just you in particular, but definitely you in particular, but everybody that's running into a place. Even today, they're running into a place in disturbances where everybody else just wants to get the heck out. And it goes back to having the love of Christ and be able to get to, you got to help somebody. Just the common person,
Yes.
the neighbor, anybody. It doesn't matter what they are or where they're from, the heart to be able to help somebody. But I thank you from the bottom of mine.
Thank you.
Well, again, we thank both of you for coming in. We thank you for sitting down and doing this with us, and thank you for your service. God, man, so tickled that not only you come in here, but thank you for being a part of the church. And we're glad to have you, and glad to have you part of our family here at the church. And it is an honor. And every week that we do these podcasts, I always put a challenge out. And so before I put the challenge out, y'all got any last words y'all want to say before we?
I mean, I feel very humbled. I feel like I don't even deserve thanks. I didn't run in buildings. If those thanks can just go out to the guys that are working on the roads now, they need it. Now more than ever, cops need to hear thank you. Amen. Whatever it is, you're at a gas station, just stand there and watch their back. Make sure that somebody's not going to attack them. Buy them a cup of coffee, whatever it is. They need it because they are in the worst times, I think, than cops ever have been in. So,
amen. Angelo, you got any?
Oh, she covered it. I would agree with that.
Usually our wives cover it, don't they? They usually get it covered. It is an honor to have y'all both here, and thank y'all again for taking time to do this. And I pray that something said or done today will give some encouragement to somebody or help somebody. And as we look back on this day, and that we don't need to forget. There's some things that we want to forget, but the day itself that we don't need to forget. It's part of our history of our country. When our country got attacked, that we need to stand up and become one again, get on one accord as a country. If you don't believe how if you don't believe how I do, that's fine. If you don't, we have to push belief. We have to stand for our country, and we need to come together as a country. And and do what's best for our country. And thank y'all so much for coming in. But I want to leave you with this challenge, Miss Sherry, just about hit my challenge, what I was going to challenge you. But today I challenge you this week, not just one day and not just 1 week, but I challenge you as a citizen of the United States and a citizen of our community. I challenge you that if you see an officer, you see a firefighter, you see a older gentleman sitting around who's got a veteran hat on, you see a military guy walk in who's got camouflage on, whatever. I challenge you to just stop and say thank you, but not only just do it with your words, do it with your actions. Buy their meal. Just take time and sacrifice a little, because they sacrificed a whole lot for us. And that's just a little appreciation, a token that you can do. And I've got where that is something I try to make a habit everywhere I go. If I see somebody like that, I'm gonna try to buy their meal or try to do something just to show thank you. And so again, thank you for tuning in with us today, and I hope you have a wonderful week. Rest of your week. I hope it's a wonderful week. And for all them Gen Zs out there, and the Gen X's, I reckon you would say too, all them ones out here that don't even know nothing about 9/11, that was born after 9/11 or of 01, I encourage you to go back, and you might have heard something. I encourage you to go back and read some stories on it and learn a little bit about what we talked about today. There's a lot of people that's probably going to listen to this that don't even know what we're talking about. They might have just heard, they might have seen pictures. I encourage you to go back, and because that's part of U.S. history. That is some of the latest history that's took place in our country, and realize why that we say that we bleed red, white, and blue. Why we love our country so much. And so again, thank y'all for tuning in. I hope you have a wonderful week in the Lord, and God bless you.